Tom, and I'm coming to you in the first of what I intend to be a series of reflections on this fantastic, though unfortunately not so well known work, The World as Matrix and as Phantom by Gunther Anders. Gunther Anders, an interesting figure. I did an interview about him a little while back. Um, but sort of on the periphery of many well-known thinkers in the Frankfurt School, and probably most noted for being the first husband of Hannah Arendt, but a powerful and underappreciated thinker in his own right. But to get into the argumentation from Mr. Anders, so just to get the ball rolling, what we are reflecting upon is a text that criticizes the implications of broadcast media, radio, and television. He's composing this in late 50s, early 60s, and so forth. And actually, it's just astounding how prescient his treatment of this matter is. The implications of broadcast media, in a nutshell, being, amongst other things, to reconstitute our understanding of world or worldness. What I mean here is world sort of in the phenomenological sense of that concept, the total context of our experience, explicit and implicit, what is latent in our relationship with a being, if you like. And we can come back and sort of look more deeply into that understanding of world subsequently. But I trust this will be a good first approximation, at least for the purposes of the gist of the world as Phantom and as a Matrix that I'll offer, which is that broadcast media, even in the form of radio and television, institutes a radical passivity in the user. Whereas historically, there's a sense of interaction with the world and with events, a give and a take. With the rise of broadcast media, all of a sudden that relationship becomes unilateral, and the world simply comes to us, is an offer to us. And the irony of this transformation is that it gives us an illusion of extraordinary potency, because we can look out on the universe seemingly protected from what is on the screen, because we're watching it at a distance in the comfort of our homes or what have you. But at the same time, our ability to actually engage in these events is remarkably attenuated. And the outcome of that attenuation is one of enervation, one of disempowerment. Now, this is just the broad set of strokes which are constituted by the painting, which is the world as Phantom and as Matrix as a text. But the opening, and I'm going to go through it one section at a time, in the opening section wants to do away with something very quickly. And that is the tendency to respond to any critique of technology in terms of what you might say is the instrumental hypothesis. There is this notion that any technology in itself, any tool in itself, has a kind of moral neutrality. And that the good or the evil which flows from its deployment is a function of the howness of that deployment. So there are means, and then there are ends. And it is the ends from which we derive our assessment of moral valence. For Anders, this is a rather almost adolescent way of framing the matter, because its viability relies on a truncating of our perspective. The validity of this distinction between means and ends, he will contend, and I agree, only holds in very local contexts. Once we get to even a minor expansion of scale, or rather, once we appreciate that our life cannot be effectively lived through segmentation, we realize that we have to do away with this distinction between ends and means, because they exist in an organic relationship, an almost chiastic relationship, to borrow a word from Merleau-Ponty, that denies the value of extricating them. That is to say, that the ends and the means are so tied up in each other that we are deluding our person if we think that their separation is a live possibility. And not only are the ends and the means tied up with each other inextricably, we are connected to this technology in a way that it affects us. So this notion that we can deploy an instrument or participate in a technology and be isolated from its effects is also a decision in favor of obliviousness. He offers the example of watching a religious service on television. The idea here is that the television is offering a media presentation which is fundamentally congenial or benign religious service putatively. However, what that treatment misses is that by watching the television, we ourselves are being reconstituted as mere watchers, as mere consumers of an image. And there is an ineluctable and unavoidable knowing that we are, in fact, merely consuming an image, a simulacrum, an appearance. We are not actually participating in the physical religious ceremony. And this actually comes back to the question of how our relationship with the world is being reconstituted and transformed into something which is almost castrating. It unilateralizes our relationship with the world and draws us into a kind of isolation that is troubling, to say the least. And this is, in fact, how he dispatches the objection that when you have a technology that can be conceived as beneficial in a limited context, we can then use that limited context to justify that technology to court, right? This is to look at life in a fragmented and ultimately almost sort of bloodless fashion. It exsanguinates vitality from our experience. Really, I'm just looking for an excuse to use the word exsanguinate. That's a great word, though, isn't it? Right? But it's when you really, at least I feel, when you really let that point sort of germinate in your mind for a while, and appreciate the significance of the inorganic, or rather of the organic and inextricable connection of means and ends, it starts to have serious implications in terms of how you yourself view technologies. Which is why, incidentally, I will not use ChatGPT. And as far as possible, avoid participating in any so called natural language simulation. Because when I'm participating in that kind of charade, I am allowing myself to be reconstituted as something which is interfacing with a machine. And though it might be putting it a bit strongly, this, in my view, ultimately reduces us to the status of mere machines. And I will hope to have the courage to resist such denigration, such a reduction of the human being beneath its dignity. So much for that. But that is how Gunther Anders opens this work. And next time I will proceed to the second section, in which we will look in finer detail at some concrete examples of how, and he's talking about radio and television, but how these sort of broadcast media affect this transformation. And we might reflect as, how the internet is almost an amplification of what he's discussing there. All right, thank you guys for listening, and I will catch you later.